So, you want to learn how to lose iRating? Well, you've come to the right place. But before we break down this beautiful mess, let's go back, way back, to where it all began 4 weeks ago. Now, I don't have a ton of footage for these races, so you're just going to have to take my word for what happened. I'm not the fastest, nor am I the cleanest, and I'm definitely not perfect. But I like to think I race fairly clean and consistent. At least, well, I thought I did. This is how you could go from 1558 iRating to a whopping 1160 iRating. Brace yourself. Silverstone, Super Formula Lights. Overall, I qualified third. The car was hooked up, the vibes immaculate. I was already rehearsing my champagne spray in my head, because theoretically, I had better pace than my competitors. However, onto lap 2, I was dive bombed into Stowe, iconic for being a high-speed hairpin. Front right tire, smashed. Suspension was bent like a paperclip. Steering column, might as well have been an IKEA part labeled optional. On top of all that pain, I had 10.5 minutes of repairs. 10.5 minutes. That's enough time to cook pasta, rewatch the Stowe dive in slow motion, and write an apology letter to my car. Naturally, I just decided to retire the car. Interlagos, one of my favorite tracks thanks to countless laps on the F1 games. This time, however, it's in the Porsche Cup. I was going to be starting from the pit lane, not ideal, but hey, challenge accepted. By the start of the third lap, I was already up into 8th place, thanks to a few bold passes through the middle sectors. Then, poof, East Coast weather decided to play Russian roulette with my Wi-Fi. Disconnected, I spent 5 minutes frantically restarting, reconnecting, and begging my router like I owed it money before giving up. More iRating down. Week 4, non-existent, just radiation. I went full tunnel vision on a 100% playthrough of Stalker's Shadows of Chernobyl. It took me 33 hours, but was 100% totally worth it.
Oh my god! Wow!
Yes, the Miatas. I was running these races because, well, my girlfriend owns one, and I've driven it in real life. Meet Snowball. Cute, right? Well, hot take, the Miata's garbage. It has no power, the weight distribution feels like I'm sitting on a rolling yoga ball, and aerodynamics? Yeah, more like aerodynamics. But according to my girlfriend, at least it's cute, right? Yeah, it's real cute until it's sideways in turn 1. In my first race, I had no pace. I was just here for the vibes and the iRating loss. The second race, into turn 1, a spun Miata collects me in his wake of destruction, destroying my steering column and totaling the car. The Miata's reputation, somehow even worse than from when I first started. Miata is life. Yeah, all style, no survival. After getting absolutely cooked in sports car racing and dropping 168 iRating, I decided to reset my racing soul by doing the most logical thing imaginable, a 65-lap IndyCar race at the circuit Joe Villeneuve. Because what could possibly go wrong? Things were going alright, had solid pace, clean racing, but 9 laps into my second stint, boom. Out of turn 2, I smashed into a stopped car dead ahead. It was hidden behind my halo like a Canadian jump scare. My front wing, gone. My suspension, gone. Will to live? Nearly gone. I got towed back to pit lane, sat in the pits long enough to question all my racing choices, and sent it back out on track with the steering wheel rotation 90 degrees just to go straight. But at least I finished the race, 15 laps down and in 13th, like a true hero of mediocrity. The very next day, I had decided I hadn't lost enough iRating. So naturally, I booted up the Toyota GRD6 Cup at Oschersleben, because if you're gonna suffer, you might as well do it in a stylish Econo box with race numbers. Now, I don't run this series very often, so I went in super blind, underprepared, and way too confident. Spoiler alert, I got collected in basically every crash that happened in front of me, like I had a magnet on the front bumper and a giant hit me sign on the rear. By the end of it, the Toyota wasn't even a car anymore, just a pile of carbon fiber. Straight to the junkyard, and my I rating right there with it. At this point, I was another 90 I rating deep in the pit of despair.
Oh, boo-hoo! Let me play a sad song for you on the world's smallest violin.
So I took a few days off to reflect, reset, and cry into the telemetry. But eventually, I returned to one of my two comfort series, the Porsche Cup. Because nothing says healing like 510 horsepower and zero driver aids. However, let's just say for this first race, I was going to be starting from the pits, mainly to avoid the turn 1 pileup, and I climbed my way into the top 10. But then into the hairpin of turn 5, I got a love tap. And by love tap, I mean full blown relationship ending shove, dropping me to 15th, hopes and dreams not far behind. So after a quick TCR race, which we'll get into, I jumped straight into the second P Cup race. I didn't set a qualifying time and ended up starting from the mid pack. But hey, I made some spicy moves up into 8th. Then turn 5 said, I remember you. I was punted and forced to back out of turn 6 and 7, dropping me right back where I started. And just when I thought it couldn't get any worse, boom, rear ended in the final corner, then hit again while facing the wrong way like a sad Porsche billboard, destroying my suspension and making my mood even worse. What did I do? Well, I rage quit into the void. But hey, at least I tried to feel comforted. Summit Point was actually pretty fun for like 2 laps. Battling for third, I was fully alongside before I was pitted into the grass, exiting the carousel, causing a huge pileup. Got hit while I was stationary, once again obtaining wheel damage. It was just another day in the trenches. So, with my C class hanging by a thread at 1.3, I decided to change things up. The Nürburgring in the Porsche Cup, 510 horsepower, no ABS, no traction control, just me, the green hell, and fate. Losing another 0.15 safety and 36 I rating just from the sheer amount of off tracks and bare collisions. Green hell, for sure, with lots of red ratings. Production Car Challenge, or as the cool kids call it, PCC. Virginia International Speedway is my home track. My license status, C class, and still hanging by a thread. The goal, survival. Maybe, hopefully, please? I was going to be starting from the back row of the Toyota class. On lap 1, I was just vibing, taking it easy, letting the chaos unfold ahead. But then a 3-car pileup into the roller coaster. Guess who had front row seats to the disaster? That's right, you guessed it, it was me. I crashed straight into one of the parked Toyotas. And pulling into the pits with 6 other broken Toyotas, I forgot to uncheck tire change and the refuel box. So while everyone else was in and out of the pits, I was in there like it was a NASCAR endurance test. I ended up finishing 10th, last of the running Toyotas. But hey, gained some safety rating. That's called a moral victory, I think. Now, this race was feeling super promising. I was starting from the front row, I was feeling super fast and dialed in, but then the BMW ahead of me decides not to go on green. He even drove off track like it was a shortcut to Starbucks. That event gave me and 4 other cars behind a stop and go penalty for passing before the line. Because logic. Yeah, cool. Love that for us. But, and that's a big but, I still gained safety rating. And that, my friends, is what a true victory looks like when your C-Class license is on life support. Now, on to week 6, Falcon Tire was out of gel, and I was driving the LMP3. I'm 438 I rating down from the start of my spiral, putting me into uncharted territory with an SOF of 952 for this race. I've seen Discord servers with more members than that. Now, there's no better way to kick things off than and by immediately throwing it away in qualifying. Into the final corner before the first lap even begins, I have a huge slide. The car looked like it was auditioning for the Fast and Frustrated. And then into turns 2 and 3, I came in way too hot, destroying my first run. And just to add salt to the wound, grabbing an off track out of turn 3. On lap 2, I was being a little more cautious, but it was looking like I was going to get this lap time in. However, going into turn 12, I was carrying too much speed and just locked the front right and lazily spin the car like I was in a low budget ballet. After invalidating both my laps, I'm starting 5th out of the 8 LMP3 cars. My strategy is pretty simple. I'm just going to go full send, try and get moves done early, and pray that I don't get taken out. And as we get to the end of this formation lap, the safety car goes in, and the race leader goes almost immediately, and I get mugged by the 27 car, and he's gone. I get a pretty bad launch. The Santander car forces us to hit our brakes as we're coming out of turn 1, as we go side by side with the 27 car into turn 2, and then as we are going into 3, we get a little bit of a snap, but we're able to hold the inside and keep it side by side. Going into turn 4, we brake a little bit deeper, ending up locking our front left. And going into Casanova, he goes in a little deep, leaving us enough space on the inside to make a really ballsy dive and make the pass. Now up into 4th, we're trying to hunt down the 6 car who decides that grip is optional through Loco and goes off into the gravel. And boom, that puts us onto the podium. On the main straight, I'm catching the Santander car, and going into turn 1, he brakes super early, earlier than your grandma at a yellow light. So I just sneak through the inside and grab second, like it's on clearance. The next few laps, we were going back and forth. I would catch him a little bit, and then he'd pull away again due to me making silly mistakes, which left the gap unchanged. Until we catch a Spun GT4 in turn 3, who decides, yeah, let me rejoin blindly. And the 7 car just creams him. I nearly park it on the apex to avoid the crash, but am gifted the lead. Out of turn 3, we have a huge moment, nearly going into the barrier as we let the 6 go by. At this point, I'm thinking, it's fine. I'm going to follow him. I'm going to learn, because he's clearly faster than I am. Immediately after this, however, I have just a lazy slide in Pelagio. So, plans changed. I'm going to make the adult decision here. Let's just bring it home in P2. No heroics. Just save the I rating and the safety rating at this point. The rest of the race, I was cranking out some pretty good lap times. I ended up crossing the line in a pretty lonely P2, but P2 nonetheless. I only had 8 penalty points, which was like getting a hug from iRacing at this point. And with this race, I basically gained zero point 0.2 safety rating and 48 I rating. So pretty big W for me in my book.